Five Nights at Freddy's, what was once a glorified, revolutionary, trend-setting video game franchise, is now a joke and parody of itself. Hello everyone, I'm OCDsaster, and I just wanted to rant about Five Nights at Freddy's today. I never really loved the franchise in the sense that I've really only played the first one, but I was infatuated with the MatPat game theory videos and watching other YouTubers like Markiplier especially play the game when it first came out, and it just had this aura about it. It was, kind of a new take on horror. It was simple but terrifying. There wasn't a explicit narrative at the beginning, which led to a lot of theory crafting and really cool videos on YouTube. And fast forward to today, and it's just completely different from what it was at the beginning, and not in a good way, in my opinion. This is my opinion, and if you don't agree, that's fine. Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions, but just know that you can have differing opinions without, attacking the person or just completely ignoring what they have to say. Maybe you can convince me otherwise, but here we go. So, FNAF 1 was the start of this phenomena, and Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, CoryxKenshin, a bunch of really big YouTubers took this game to a whole new level, to the stratosphere, with their overreactions, their screaming, and it was a simple game. There wasn't much of a narrative, and the whole, inception of the game was great because Scott Cawthon, the creator of the game, was about to give up video game design, but he took one criticism from his last game where they said that his characters look like creepy animatronics, and he tried one last time, and he used that criticism to spark lightning in a bottle, and then it just exploded from there. He started pushing out games every, I think it was 4 or 5 months. I can't really quite remember the window between the first 3 games, but he was just setting off, and he just kept going. And it was kind of this, I'm trying to think of what the word is, but mutually beneficial thing where Markiplier was already big, but Five Nights at Freddy's took him to the next level, but then he also took FNAF to the next level, and then they just kept accelerating and boosting each other. The same with Game Theory. Game Theory was already big, but then when the FNAF theories came out, it elevated Game Theory even more, and they got more popular, which then got FNAF more popular. It was just a very huge phenomena for the first, and even still today, of the games. And it was cool at first. Symbiotic, there it is. It's a symbiotic relationship. And from someone that didn't play the games but watched them, I really liked FNAF 1. FNAF 2, I thought was just mwah, chef's kiss. I know people say gameplay-wise it's not nearly as good, but from a viewing experience with the 8-bit mini games that are expanding the lore a little bit, but not explicitly telling you what's going on. FNAF 3, we don't talk about that one. FNAF 4 was genuinely terrifying to watch people play, and then things kind of started going downhill in my opinion. And that's also where we start seeing a tonal shift and a story shift. You see, I don't think Scott Cawthon planned a whole narrative at the beginning, and I think that led to some really cool creative theories from MatPat and the game theorists, but then it started to be a thing where Scott was really listening and watching MatPat's theories because he wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to make a game that was right on with MatPat's theory, because then everyone's going to be like, oh, well, MatPat already called this. So MatPat was kind of leading the narrative a little bit, and Scott had to pivot and change things up as he was going, which was fine at first because you were still following this narrative of a child ender. I'll say it that way, so that way I don't get demonetized. A child ender. You had these spirits in the animatronics. It was this horror supernatural element, and the theories kept cranking. Scott kept doing his thing, kept things still kind of ambiguous, and then he kind of just snapped. I think he just kind of got creatively bubbled into a corner, and he wanted to kind of break free of that, and he decided to shift things over. He bookended the games with Five Nights at Freddy's, the pizza simulator, which honestly did a really good job of adding new gameplay mechanics and then also like a really cool ending. And then Custom Night was a fun thing where, the theory is that you're playing as William Afton in Purgatory or Hell. And then from there, we get like Sister Location, and we get, I might be missing a few games. Of course, you have the mobile games, but those don't really count. You get FNAF World is like a spin-off. You get Security Breach, Ruin, and then Help Wanted 2, and Secret of the Mimic. Not in that order, but that's what we end up getting. And that's where things started to change. And in my opinion, Pat's theories started to get worse because, like, Scott didn't know what he was doing. Matt was trying to, like, keep it all together. And then you have the downfall of the FNAF franchise. And by downfall, like, it's still very popular. There's still a bunch of sales and people gushing over the game, making content, making theories and stuff. But I think we knew it was towards the change, the big pivot, once Pat stopped making theories as much on FNAF, and then even, like, retired. I think he did retire as the FNAF games are getting worse. I think he really did, was like, okay, I ran this course, and now I think it's time to let things go. There's probably so many other variables, and like he's mentioned them before, but I think he saw FNAF and was like, okay, I've milked this thing, and now the quality of the games are just not as good. Scott's going in a different direction, and I think I'm ready to hang it up. And that direction is what I kind of wanted to talk about in this video, because we went from the supernatural horror elements of FNAF to this wacky, like, sci-fi, and it just isn't working for me. And I think I'm actually tapped out. If you couldn't tell, I'm actually pretty tuned into the lore and theories of FNAF. It's kind of been a weird, like, side hobby of mine. I don't really play the games, and I definitely scoff at some of the stuff, but I've always been just, like, tuned into what people have to say and the theories and stuff. But I realized after Secret of the Mimic, I've listened to some theories, and I'm just starting to roll my eyes. And the books also really ruined that, too. And I think that's when Pat also kind of got tired out, was Scott wants to keep everything kind of tied together. The books aren't one-to-one with the games, but there's definitely similarities. Some things canon in the games that aren't in the books. Something in the books are canon that aren't in the games. The movies are their separate thing, but he still wants it all to be at least cohesive enough that you have to, like, seek out these things. And from my knowledge, a lot of the books are not great. They're just like children's horror, and it's like you get like Fazgoo, and it gets really into that wacky sci-fi stuff. And it's Scott's property, his characters, his story. He can do what he wants with it, but we've really leaned more so into that, and then also trying to get all the audience, not just the, old FNAF fans, but trying to get kids to like it and teens to like it, and you can't juggle all that and keep a consistent, solid game. And it's really unfortunate, because Sister Location was kind of when things started to teeter a little bit, because it's no longer just like possessed animatronics. We're talking about, these experiments, and then you go into Security Breach and you have fully talking, fully alive animatronics of personalities. And in the books you have like Tiger Rock, which is an AI system in a tree. And then you go in and you got the Secret of the Mimic, which is like a AI initiative robot killing machine that is somehow tied to Afton and Glitch Trap. And then Help Wanted kind of like says everything that happened in the first 3 games like technically happened, but they were just a game. And it just gets so wild and jumbled together, and it's not good. I don't think the sci-fi angle is really working for me or for a lot of fans. You have people playing the games like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye and Queso, and they all say the games aren't necessarily bad. I mean, Security Breach was really bad, but they're like, oh yeah, Mimic is good, but it's not what we wanted. It's not what it used to be. And I completely agree with them. And those were the people that helped grow this franchise, and they're the ones saying like, yeah, this isn't it, Chief. And like Security Breach really took a lot of people out, because not only was the lore convoluted, and they just kept it super, super vague, and none of it added up or made sense at all, because there wasn't enough communication between Scott and Steel Wool, but the game was also fundamentally broken as crap and could not operate correctly, and it's just a terrible experience to play. So all that together also really just threw people out of it. I can completely understand as a creative boxing yourself into a narrative and getting really tired of the same thing, and understanding that the audience doesn't just want William Afton as the bad guy the entire time, but then completely, turning it into this new villainous robot is just like, what like, honestly, like, what are we doing? You had a layup, honestly. The Vanny storyline seemed interesting, having this, follower of Afton, more of a sinister cult-like thing, and then you completely threw that away because you couldn't communicate it correctly with Still Wool. So they had, Burn Trap, and then now you have to find a way to make Burn Trap canon and make it seem like it wasn't a mistake. So then you decide to go to a robot, and now the robot has multiple robots and is trying to mimic so-and-so, and it's like, why? Like, why are people still subscribed to this? Like, I just don't understand. Like, I enjoy Rye Toast. I enjoy FNAF. These are, like, other FNAF YouTube channels, and I enjoy them, and I enjoy their theories, because sometimes their theories are, like, really good in the way they break things down. But, like, they just sit there and they just allow this and just get excited for these things, which they're allowed to do, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, I started zoning out because, like, what they're saying is insane. Like, oh, in the books, this, and that, and you have to keep track of everything. It's like the MCU of, like, today, where you have to, like, not only see the movies, but then watch the TV shows and then go back into the movies, and that's what it's doing with, like, the books and everything, and you have to recap every time you try to do a theory to frame everything, and it just keeps getting longer and longer of just this exposition for the people that aren't caught up, and there needs to be a serious reboot. Completely start over. Like, just completely start over. Like, keep the characters and just flip the switch. I think that'd be fine. Or have two separate universes. Just distinct universes. You can have the Still Wool universe if you want to keep this mimic thing going on, but then give your rights to a comparable, is that the right word? A good development team for horror, because Still Wool isn't that. They're not that good at it. Still Wool, I've watched a lot of, like, design frame and, game design channels breaking down how, like, actually bad Still Wool is at making games. And so, like, you can keep them in whatever you want to do with the Mimic. But let's start over. And I'm not talking about the fan FNAF verse, because that's just another just controversial, convoluted mess of a thing that happened. It was, in theory, a good initiative, but all in all, it just ended up being a disaster. Scott Cawthon should just let a horror company just take over and just do, like, a very gritty, very dark, adult FNAF. I don't think that would be so hard to do. Go back to more of the old school mechanics of the game, really reshape and do something different. It doesn't have to be Afton, and just see where it goes from there. Because myself, as someone who's been watching FNAF since it started, like, it's not it anymore. And, like, it's not like I grew out of it, because I started watching it when I was, like, in college, is like when it came out. So, like, I wasn't a kid. It's just, I'm seeing the regression, I'm seeing the wheels spinning, and just, we're going to end up in outer space. Like, I know there's, like, the meme game of Freddy in space, but we're going to end up in outer space, and it's going to be, like, Mimic War, and you're going to need Helpy with a AK-47 to help you out, and it's gonna get crazy, and I'm just not ready for that kind of crazy roller coaster. But I want to know your guys' thoughts. Are you a FNAF fan? I assume you are if you clicked this video. If not, this must have been such a schizophrenic thing to listen to. But let me know down in the comments if you've been enjoying the direction that FNAF has been going in, or if you miss the old horror supernatural side of it. Do you think my idea works where they should split off, game universes, or should they just kill the whole thing? I'm very curious to what your thoughts and opinions are. I think once Pat was done theorizing is kind of where we realized, like, okay, we're running out of steam here, and now it's just a tangled mess of junk and garbage, and you can really tell it, like, it was with the books too. Like, Scott's not a storyteller, and it shows. It really does show. But I mean, he's made millions off of this, so why would he stop now? I get the grind. I get the grind. I'm OCDsaster, and yeah, I'm out of here.